I'm Kelda Yoon. The SIU is investigating after a police officer was stabbed and a suspect shot this afternoon in the city's West End. Both are now in stable condition. The incident happened near College and Lansdowne, and our Lane Harrison has been there all evening and joins us live there now. Lane, walk us through what happened.
Kelda, two Toronto police officers responded to a call here around 1:30 this afternoon. They tried to apprehend a man outside of the Tim Hortons just behind me. They say they tried to taser him but were unsuccessful, and police say the man then stabbed one of the officers in the leg. That officer then shot him. Now, a warning to our viewers, some of the images you are about to see are graphic. Authorities say this incident began with a call about a man in crisis. Two officers went to the College and Lansdowne area and found him in front of a Tim Hortons. They said they then tried to apprehend him under the Mental Health Act, and that's when things took a turn.
There was some type of struggle with two officers that were on scene, and during that struggle, the man produced a knife and stabbed an officer, and that officer shot the man, I believe, one time.
Security camera footage from a nearby store shows that struggle. Officers can be seen wrestling with a man, and one of them grabs their leg. Then the officers stand up and draw their weapons. Because police shot the man, the Special Investigations Unit is now investigating. The SIU says before the man was shot, officers tried to stop him with a taser, but that was unsuccessful.
Now there's two people who are in hospital, the officer and the man, and it's believed they have non-life-threatening injuries.
But the girlfriend of the man who was shot is telling a different story.
What happened was we were sitting inside Tim Hortons, actually, and the police actually came saying like they had a warrant, I think, for his arrest or something, and they tackled him and everything. Sometimes when a person gets stressed and everything too, they could do things that they don't necessarily mean or anything like that.
The SIU says it has no information about police executing an arrest warrant. The incident shut down the busy College and Lansdowne intersection for much of the day, with more than a dozen police vehicles present at one point, and a pool of blood was visible in front of the Tim Hortons, along with what appeared to be someone's personal belongings.
Well, I actually live not far from here, so it's shocking. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my neighborhood.
Toronto Police Association President John Reid spoke to the media in front of St. Michael's Hospital, where the injured officer was being treated. Reid says he is in his early 20s and has less than a year on the force.
I have had enough with what's going on in the city. This is the third officer we've had injured now in 3 days. We had a uniform officer punched in the face walking down the street a few days ago, another officer with a broken leg, and now we have this. It has to stop.
Reid is calling on the mayor and local councillors to throw more support behind Toronto Police. Now, we did hear from Mayor Olivia Chow on this today. In a brief statement on social media, she says she hopes the officer has a quick recovery. She also referenced the other recent injuries to Toronto Police and said violence is never acceptable. Kelda?
Thanks so much, Lane. That's our Lane Harrison live for us tonight. Testimony has now wrapped in the trial of the man accused of deliberately running over a Toronto police officer nearly 3 years ago. Umar Zamir has pleaded not guilty to first-degree murder in the death of Jeffrey Northrup. Today, the defense called its final two witnesses to the stand. Both were Northrup's colleagues on the police force. Greg Ross has more on what they said in court.
Detective Constable Ryan D'Souza was the last witness for the defense. He was not at the scene when Constable Jeffrey Northrup was killed in the early morning hours of July 2nd, 2021. He arrived at the underground parking garage at Nathan Phillips Square a few minutes later and immediately found two of his colleagues at the exit to the garage. They had Zamir on his knees with his hands cuffed behind his back. Zamir's wife, Ada Sheikh, was several meters away holding their then 2-year-old son. According to D'Souza, she was crying. D'Souza describes Zamir as having a glazed look on his face, appearing to be in a state of shock. He said that he read Zamir his rights and made sure he understood them. He then asked Zamir what happened. He says Zamir told him there was a stabbing in the area He saw a lot of police cars and wanted to leave. According to D'Souza, Zamir told him that a man and a woman approached them in the parking garage and started banging on their car. D'Souza said Zamir told him he was scared and he didn't know the man and woman were police. They were Constable Northrup and his partner, Constable Lisa Forbes. D'Souza said he asked Zamir if he saw their badges, and Zamir replied, "No, I didn't see anything." Yesterday, Zamir testified that he attempted to reverse out of his parking spot to escape the man and the woman who were banging on his car. Two separate accident reconstruction specialists determined that while Zamir was reversing, he sideswiped Constable Northrup, causing him to fall to the ground. Zamir testified he didn't see Northrup on the ground, but did recall running over something that he said felt like a speed bump. Today, the Crown recalled Detective Constable Charnel Pace, who testified earlier in the trial. They were allowed to recall Pace because the Crown was not previously permitted to examine Pace about statements made by Zamir at the time of his arrest. That changed after Zamir took the stand and testified to statements he made to police. Pace says he was in an unmarked police van that rammed Zamir's BMW from behind at the exit to the parking garage. He says with his gun drawn, he removed Zamir's wife from the passenger side of the car. Pace said a few minutes later he instructed Zamir to get up, and that's when Zamir told him, "We didn't know you were police. We didn't know you were cops." Pace says he pointed to the blood on the side of Zamir's BMW and said, "That's my partner you ran over." Pace says Zamir told him there was a stabbing in the area and he was scared. Pace said at one point he told Zamir to get up again, and Zamir didn't comply, so he punched him in the face to gain compliance. Yesterday, Zamir testified that he asked if the injured police officer was okay. Pace testified he didn't recall Zamir saying anything else to him. Both sides have now officially rested their case. The trial resumes on Tuesday when closing arguments are expected to get underway, starting with the defense. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Police in York Region were able to locate a missing Markham man using special technology. A wristband tracker allowed officers to pinpoint his location within hours after he went missing this week. Lorena Redekop shows us how it works.
Air 2, Roger. So yeah, let's push North McCowan from 401.
York Regional Police had one team in a helicopter, other officers on the ground, searching for a 69-year-old man with dementia, missing from Markham.
Pinging at McCowan and Finch. Yeah, strong signal on that bus.
The search took them to Toronto, almost 15 kilometers away. The senior wears one of these wristbands, a tracking device, part of a program for vulnerable people. Luckily, the senior in this case is one of just 52 people in York Region who's part of the program. Officers use one of these machines to pick up a signal from the wristband.
Ideally, if I'm pointing away from our signal, it's going to be a little softer, but as I get pointed towards it, I know my signal's down that way, right?
To qualify for the program, people have to be at risk of wandering off, have a caregiver, and not drive. The device has been around for 25 years, started by a company based in the U.S. While there's more modern Bluetooth-based technology available, like Apple AirTags, the founder says this technology works.
I mean, it's reliable, it's proven, it's been around since World War II. It has worked tremendously well, and it has less chances of failing than any of the technologies out there.
How he thought up this product might surprise you. The former police officer saw a brochure about animal tracking and started thinking,
well, if we can do this with wildlife, if we can track birds, we can track animals, why couldn't we take a person that's considered at risk for becoming lost, give them that same technology?
All these years later, the company boasts finding more than 4,200 people. And on Wednesday, they added one more to the total.
They got him!
Let's go!
Let's go! Wow. Nice. That's insane.
Seeing the results and just being able to imagine what the family went through and being able to reunite with their loved one, it gave me chills.
She says the family now has peace of mind. There are still questions. The tracking shows the senior at some point got in a car, and the details are unknown. But there's relief that a program called Project Lifesaver may have done just that. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC.
Welcome back. Toronto could soon become the most expensive city to buy a house in the country. Right now, Vancouver is still at the top of the list, but Royal LePage is projecting a 10% increase in our city's home prices this year, edging out Vancouver. Chris Glover has details on what's driving the rising prices.
As Toronto takes over Vancouver's dreary weather, we're learning Royal LePage Real Estate is forecasting the GTA could soon take over Greater Vancouver's long-held title for the highest home prices in Canada by the end of this year.
Right now, I'm moving back home. This is ridiculous. That's not good.
35-year-old Corey Prescott was born in Vancouver. He's rented in Toronto for years, but is contemplating moving.
We went out east last summer, and one of her cousins bought a house for really cheap, and he's like, yeah, it seems a lot of Ontarians are moving to Nova Scotia.
Last year, Royal LePage projected the GTA's home price increase for 2024 would be 6%. Now that's been hiked to a 10% increase. Do you own your home, Ed?
Yes, but just because when I was born, I got lucky. Born in '69, so I'd be able to afford a home in my late 20s, but my kids can't.
In 1998, Ed Seagram bought his Riverdale home for $274,000. Now homes in his neighborhood are $1.6 million. What do you think about the fact that your kids, likely, like you said, will never be able to buy a house?
Yeah, no, I just think, well, it's sad for them. I think their generation's going to be less well off than mine. And so we got to do something about it.
2023's actual final quarter aggregate home price in the GTA was over $1.1 million. Royal LePage's forecast for 2024's final quarter is over $1.2 million, a more than $100,000 increase.
A lot of this crunch and a lot of this pressure is that our population's still outpacing our housing completion. So even though we're building, population grew far more rapidly, and now we're basically playing catch up.
Royal LePage says the surge is a combo of scarce housing and an anticipation that interest rates will come down through the year. On Wednesday, the Bank of Canada held its key interest rate at 5% for the 6th consecutive time, but hinted a rate cut was possible as early as June.
Now we're seeing buyer and seller being used to the new normal of the reality of the interest rate on the market.
This real estate agent thinks with interest rates expected to go down, the increasing price trend in Toronto will only continue.
There is still a mismatch between supply and demand. We're still not building fast enough inventory of new home to absorb the immigration that is coming to Toronto.
After decades of underbuilding, Ontario and Toronto have stepped up the pace. Toronto is on track to meet a target of building 285,000 homes by 2031. The city has also done recent policy changes, including allowing multiplexes up to 4 units across Toronto.
It is not scary. Doug Ford shouldn't be scared of things like this.
Outside a Toronto single home converted into 5 units, the NDP says next week it'll table a motion calling on the Ford government to make it easier for people to co-own a home, waiving fees and streamlining legal and banking issues around co-ownership.
It should be quick, easy and affordable for people to co-own homes on one residential lot, which is why I'm calling on the Ontario government to come up with a plan to make that happen.
Toronto Housing isn't just capturing home price titles here in Canada. Thursday, the American real estate brokerage Zoocasa released a study analyzing housing data of 40 cities across North America. It showed Toronto's median home price now even beats New York City. And that's even though average incomes in the Big Apple are significantly higher than those in Toronto.
There, 2.2 million.
What do you think of that?
Just expensive. Kids, in today's salaries you can't afford. To me,
Ed Seagram thinks it boils down to immigration.
The more people keep coming in, the more housing's going up. And the government is very slow, I think, unfortunately, all levels, at making it easy to supply new housing.
And supply is certainly something every government and political party has promised. The question is, when will the impact be felt? Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
It opened way back in 1914 and against many odds is still going strong today. The Fox Theatre in the Beaches is the oldest continuously run cinema in Toronto. And this week it is marking a major milestone, its 110th birthday. As Talia Ricci finds out, community is at the heart of its continued success.
We're sitting in the one and only auditorium of the Fox Theatre. So we're a 240-seat theatre. We've been around since 1914. It's our 110th birthday this year.
Why is it so important to recognize and celebrate this milestone of the Fox Theatre turning 110 years old?
With independent theatres across Canada, there's many of them that kind of disappeared over the years. And the Fox is one of the few that have kind of gone strong the whole 110 years. So I think in Toronto there's only a few left. So it's important that we are continuing and just like celebrating our success and our ongoing success of the theatre. The Beach neighborhood continues to be very supportive, and we're seeing people coming out in droves to the theatre, and we've had a really good year. And we kind of finally feeling like we're getting past the difficult time. And it's all because of people locally being interested in what we're doing.
So this isn't just a place that people come and see films. There's a lot of different things that happen here. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Just recently we're starting to book more director Q&As. We've done a number of like sing-alongs with different films where people can come and sing in the actual theater. We're doing kids video dance parties where we play music videos on screen and kids can just come dance with their parents and like hang out. And we're continuing a lot of the same things we've done in the past too, like playing lots of classic films, trying to give a voice to different like independent filmmakers who are coming out and have kind of a different perspective on the world. We have great staff who are like very engaged with what's going on with the theater and with customers, and they know all the locals, they know the neighborhood well. A lot of them are from the neighborhood. We're trying to offer something that's outside of what you'd get at other like mainstream theater.
We've got this candy bar sign, which I believe has been here since the 30s. I do think when you come to this theater, that's one of the things that I notice people really love pointing out when they walk through the door. They're always like, wow, this place is so cool, because you just don't get buildings like this anymore in Toronto. It's a smaller venue. I think the little details, the lighting, the period things that are here from back in the day, like we have a wall at the back of the theater that used to be used to separate the smokers from the non-smokers, things like that. People walk in and there's a beautiful ceiling and they look up and there's just so much to look at, which is not the case when you go to a general multiplex. We've never used it as an actual candy bar in the time that I've been there, but people do like to take pictures under that sign a lot.
Why did the Fox want to kind of keep that nostalgic feeling?
I think just the community would have demanded it, but I do think that it is the feeling of history. I think being one of the oldest movie theaters in Toronto, you want to preserve that. It's something that you can sell. It's also just something that is very special. We in Toronto see so many of our older buildings getting torn down or getting altered in a way that makes them unrecognizable. So it's nice to have a place where someone can be like, I came to this theater when I was a little girl and now I'm bringing my granddaughter here, and it's still pretty similar to what it used to be. The Beach community is a very close community. I think you tend to have people who live here all their lives. So we have people who have come to this theater all their lives, and I think they're very invested in making sure that it's here, that it's part of the community meeting place that they remember.
This is the entrance of the theater, and the front box office is there, but it's been tiled since then.
What are your hopes for the next 100 years for the theater?
The way we've always looked at it is, how can we have the Fox continue and improve after we're gone? We're just a couple people in a long line of people who've operated the Fox over 110 years. So it's important that we can set the Fox up to succeed in the future, I think, too. I expect the Fox will last another 100 years. So who knows what it's going to look like in that new iteration, but people always will want to go see movies, I think.
You are looking at a live shot of Toronto. Light rain tonight, currently sitting at 5 degrees. Let's go to Colette Kennedy now with a look at your forecast. And Colette, we have had a soggy couple of days. Where's the sun at?
Yeah, you know, you're right, Kelda. Sometimes weather or weather systems just really try our patience, and it takes patience to get on with it and waiting for that sun to return. And we've got a little ways to go yet, and then some ups and downs through the weekend. So let's I'm going to take you all through the headlines and show you what I'm talking about. We know we have windy conditions. That carries on tonight into tomorrow. It becomes more breezy than windy, but still we're looking at winds of 70 to 80 kilometers an hour tonight towards tomorrow morning, and then they drop back more in the 50 to 60 range, the gusts, that is. In the higher terrain, as some colder air is pulled in overnight towards tomorrow morning, a little bit of a dusting of light snow like the Dundalk Highlands. You have that chance there. Elsewhere, you may see a few flurries flying, not necessarily in Toronto, but north of the 407. Then we get into clearing Saturday. Saturday. That's where patience will also come in handy. It's going to be much sooner in southwestern Ontario and even western GTA sections, but it'll take a little time elsewhere. And then even Sunday, we have another system that's going to come through. And so that means it's hit and miss with the sun there. Wind warnings, and in the wind warning area there, it's a matter of the winds gusting to 90 kilometers an hour. And with the ground being so saturated from all these rains, that's where it really poses a problem for tree limbs and certainly just the root systems becoming so saturated that it can pull things down and pull down some power lines along with it. Temperatures were mild, but of course that was early in the day, and in many cases they've been falling, and they continue to this afternoon. That clearing in southwestern Ontario sets you up for a beautiful Saturday, although breezy, and there's some of that mixing even tomorrow morning, and then into the afternoon some of that clearing, which slowly marches into eastern Ontario. And then the next system shows up Sunday morning, late Sunday. Again, if you're patient, we might get some clearing once again. A look at those winds generally from the west to the northwest in terms of what we'll be experiencing with the direction. And additional rainfall this weekend, we're looking at about 10 to 15 millimeters coming on through here. Your overnight temperatures 4 to 5 degrees. For Windsor, you may stick at about 5. And then here we go, 10 degrees. It's going to feel cooler than that because of the winds on Saturday, 13 on Sunday. So, we're taking those baby steps back towards warmth. And then Monday, Tuesday, we are rewarded at the beginning of the week, those highs around 16.
Yay, thanks so much, Colette. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Chris Glover has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here on Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone.